I find very important from the introduction that I wrote. It's evident that I'm a computer nerd. And I've been a computer nerd ever since the days of the dial-up internet when, 20 years ago you got that little do-do-do-do tone. Somebody picks up the phone, you lose your signal, and it was real finicky and killed you. So I've been a computer nerd since then. I was hooked. And after starting System X Designs and helping companies, what I really do is I help companies and organizations answer this question. What's the best place to hide a body? Second page of Google. Nobody's ever going to look there. Not a single person's ever going to look there. Everybody just looked up real quick when I just said where to hide a body. It's going to be an exciting morning. I don't believe in decaf, right? So, to start out understanding that mentality, I always like to try to get the crowd on my side whenever I do presentations like this, and so I throw out some real softball pitches. How many people are proud of your organization? Proud Rotarians, right? Okay. So how many people like it when good things are said about Rotary Club? Right, so when you see things like this, great group of people doing a great job helping their fellow man, that makes you feel good, right? Yes, I know some of us are eating, but yeah. Okay. So the same would hold true that you don't like it when people say bad things about your organization. Would that be correct? Yeah. Okay. And if somebody, let's say we were all sitting in a coffee shop and not that anybody would ever say anything bad about your club, but you overheard somebody that might not have a positive view of your organization, what would you want to do about it? None of you strike me as the type that would just get up and assault them, but you might want to step over and introduce yourself and just say, hey, I couldn't help but overhear some of your concerns, and I'd like to introduce you to some of the people in our organization. I've had the chance to meet several of you this morning, and that would severely stem that negative feedback, right? Okay. We do that because what other people say matters. Our reputation is important. Does that make sense? What other people think about Rotary Club is important. It's true for your family, your friends, your social clubs, your civic organizations, and also your businesses. And that's what System X Designs does. System X Designs helps control the messaging about your business. And while we talked about that coffee shop example, in my world, the coffee shop is online. And so we control that messaging and we provide that first impression through what we call search engine optimization. That's where the conversation is taking place about your organization or your business in my world. So I want to start out with just some basics. Did you know? I live in Athens, Georgia, by the way, so we're going to see a lot of Athens examples in here, and go Dogs. Did you know that the tree, so I just searched for tree removal service Athens, Georgia, and it returns this style layout on Google, where I have some business listings down here. I have some regular web page listings. But if I were to search for how to tie your shoes, I would get like a wiki article, and then I'd get some related articles. I'd get some how-to videos. It's just a different template, if you will, a different layout. Does that make sense? Everybody know that already? You've already seen this. You just might not have paid attention to it. Today we're going to focus on the business listings layout because that's what I do, and that's the way that I think you can apply what we're going to talk about directly to your organization or your businesses. And this layout has three primary sections. The first one is paid advertisements. You've seen these before. They're the paid ads that rotate through the top. And they're not always present. It depends on how competitive the search term is, but they're not always present. The next is what we call local SEO. And by the way, those paid ads on any given search term normally pull about 19% of the clicks. Then we have our local SEO, which that is those businesses that are listed out. Those normally pull about 52% of the clicks. And then the last section is organic SEO. And that's those web pages that normally pull about 29% of the clicks. Altogether, these three are called search engine marketing. And it's important to have a good strategy for all three sections. But today we only have a limited amount of time together. And so I want to focus on the one that pulls the most clicks. 52% of those clicks go through the local SEO. That will be the piece that we're going to focus on. So this is kind of a business listings that you would see that would come up in that middle section. And we call this the 3-pack. Any guesses as to why? because there's 3, right? No reason this can't be fun. There's 3 of them, and then if there's more than 3, they get put down here in this more places. And that's the second page of Google. That's where you hide if you don't want to get found, okay? So what we say is these 3 are basically tied for first place. When it comes through a click-through ratio, there's no real difference in those 3. And down here, there's really no difference between 4th place and last place. They get so few clicks that it doesn't matter, right? So the idea is, how do we dominate this 3-pack? There's a lot of what's called ranking indicators that go into that. I know that's a super nerdy term, so we're not going to focus on it, but it's just things that you can do that help you get to the top of that. We don't have time to talk about all of them, so I want to focus on the one that's very simple, very powerful, and you're already aware of it. It's something that you can take away today and start applying to your business. So this is a search term for Athens landscaping. Again, the Athens references are going to be plentiful. You might call all 3 of these companies. You might call 2 of them. You might only call 1. But if you were only going to call 1, who would you call first? And I'll zoom in on that a little bit. So knowing here, let's do show of hands, all right? So who would call Precision Landscape Management first? Right, okay, so virtually everybody. What about number 2, Southern Designs? No. And what about number 3? A couple. Okay, handful. All right, exactly. So yeah, and you might call both. What we're trying to focus on is just who would you call first. And so 90% of people actually, and you guys just said the exact same thing, more than 90% of you just said that. And so the question becomes, why? What are the differences? And some of these ranking indicators that are really important hold equal on these. So the distance is a huge one for local. It's irrelevant because it's a service-based business. They come to me, right? Not only is it irrelevant, but they're also almost equal. 2.2 miles, 2.7 miles. It's irrelevant, right? They're all categorized the same. It's another huge indicator for Google. They all say landscaper. So the key difference there is the reviews. The first one has 4.6 rating. It's the highest rated. It's got 36 reviews. The second one doesn't have any reviews. And the third one, though it had a pretty decent rating at 4.2, it only had 5 reviews. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that reviews, we need a bunch of good ones. We need as many as we can get. Does that make sense? All right. So what are they worth? You heard in the introduction that I'm big on the belief that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so I want to talk about quantifying that and putting a value to it. Athens Landscaping, Google provides some tools where we can see search volumes and competitiveness. And Athens Landscaping is searched for about 150 times a month. That's 1,800 times per year. And for us to get through this exercise, just to come to some general consensus, let's make some assumptions that we can agree on. Everyone searching for Athens Landscaping is a potential customer, right? Other than me, obviously, who used it for this example, but nobody's just perusing Athens Landscaping, okay? Everyone's a potential customer, and the average customer for a landscaping company is at least $500. I don't know how many of you have ever paid for landscaping, but there's just not a lot you can get for under 500 bucks. I think we can agree that's a pretty conservative estimate. And so if we can agree on these things, what are those reviews worth? Well, 1,800 searches per year and 90% of us would click on the first one. That's what it's worth. That's what it's worth. 90% of those clicks, 1620. If every one of them, and I'm not inferring that everyone becomes a customer, we're talking about a potential pool here of customers. Precision starts with $810,000 of a potential pool versus $18,000 versus $72,000. Again, I'm not saying these are hard numbers, but if we get, let's say I missed by half, which pool would you want to start your business in? Okay? But it's not just important for the click-throughs and for the business. It's important for consumers. According to Bright Local, who does a lot of these studies, 91% of consumers read reviews about online businesses. 84% trust them as much as they do from a trusted source, a friend. I want you to pause for a second and understand. That's for the good reviews and the bad reviews. 73% think that any review older than 3 months is irrelevant, okay? And all of these things are incredibly important, but if you didn't believe any of them, the most important is that it is a ranking indicator now for Google. It did not used to be. The number of ratings and reviews that you get contributes to your ability to get to the top of that 3-pack. Where do we hide bodies? Second page of Google. Where do you want to be? Not there. Okay? It is now a ranking indicator. In short, you can't ignore it anymore. So how do we get them to happen automatically, and why don't they? Right now, they probably happen sporadically. They're more common with like restaurants. But if you have a business, especially like a service-based business, they don't normally happen automatically unless they're bad. When I was in college, long before online marketing was even a thing, we used to talk about how a positive experience, somebody would tell 1 to 3 of their friends. A negative experience, they'd tell 7 to 15. Well, now, a negative experience can tell millions forever. Forever. So, why don't they happen automatically? Well, what we find is 3 general reasons. They don't have time. They just don't, they think it's going to take too long to go find all these different review places to leave your reviews. Or they forgot. They complete their transaction with your business and then they never think about you again. Or they simply don't know how. They don't have the technical expertise to go find all these different profile places online to leave you a review. Does that make sense? Okay. So the good news is we have 3 problems here, but we only need 2 solutions because we're going to tackle this one and this one at the same time. So how do we overcome them? Well, we got to make it convenient. It has to be streamlined. It has to be quick to get rid of the I don't have time. We have to automatically remind them systematically. Okay, I have to have a system in place. I can't just say, hey, Travis, whenever you leave here, if you don't mind, would you write me a review? Yeah, sure, no problem. Never thinks about it again. We have to be able to remind him. Step-by-step instructions have to make it easy. And again, if we make it easy, it will be convenient. So we're going to tackle those 2 at the same time. How do we go about that? Well, first and foremost, we can prominently display buttons like Review Us on our website. So we can get people that are already on our site to review us. But there's some other ways. How many of you get 1 million emails a day? I can't keep up with mine. But every time I send one, it's an invitation to review my company. If I send you 600 emails in a year, that's 600 requests. I can use QR codes. Everybody used to say, I think QR codes are dying. Well, Apple disagreed because they made it a standard feature in their new operating system. You can use simple URL redirects just to make it easy. All we're trying to do is make it simple for somebody, especially on a mobile device, to be able to leave these reviews. Lots of ways you can do it. Social media, printed materials, email campaigns, receipts, invoices. A lot of ways that you can integrate this, right? But when we integrate these, where are we sending the person to? Well, we don't want to just blindly blast out, hey, go review us, because they're not going to know where. We have to guide them. So a strategy that we employ that I recommend is that we ask them first, did you have a good or a bad experience? Can we agree that the person who's saying the Rotarians are doing great work for their fellow man should be handled differently than the person in the coffee shop who said, I don't know, that Rotary Club may not be all it's cracked up to be. So you might want to know what their impression is prior to making a decision. Well, for us, we say, did you have a good or a bad experience? First, we'll focus on I had a good experience. If you had a good experience, I would love for you to go tell the world about it. Here we've got Google and Facebook. You see Google is more prominently displayed because that is a ranking indicator. It's more important. But we have tons of others that you should integrate with that you may not be aware of. They are industry specific. RateMDs, if you are a doctor, that one's more important to you. Yelp is more restaurant oriented. Angie's List, if you're a service-based business, a tree removal service, anything. So when they click on these logos and say, okay, I'm going to leave you a review and I'm going to do it on Google, we can handle that one of 2 ways, making it easy. We can either take them straight to the review page, or we can give them screenshots and step-by-step instructions so that when they click the button, they already know how to do it. Does that make sense? Okay. By the way, I'm really glad that y'all are catching on to the idea that we're not just talking about bodies and hiding them. We're being good sports about it. So if somebody said, I had a bad experience, I certainly don't want them to go tell the world about it. We're going to handle that person in the coffee shop differently than that person who's saying you're doing good work for your fellow man. So we're going to give them an alternate route. Customers generally don't want to just go light your company on fire on social media. They want to be heard and acknowledged. And if they can resolve it in a route that doesn't include online, they will oftentimes take it. So we send them to a form instead of go tell the world on Facebook that you're mad at me. We send them to a form that generates and goes to whoever you want, sales manager, whoever it is. It helps prevent negative reviews from hitting you online. If I had a 1-star rating on that, can we agree I probably wouldn't be the first company you'd call? So what we're trying to do is twofold: raise positive reviews, decrease negative reviews. That's the make it easy, right? Make it easy, make it simple, make it convenient. We've solved problems 1 and 3. Now we're going to talk about reminders. You've all been in a marketing email drip campaign, whether you knew it or not, okay? And what it is, it's just a fancy, nerdy way for us to say that it's pre-written emails that go out on a schedule. And so we're going to look at it as an example. Let's load in 100 previous customers from email addresses that you had from your business. On day 1, we're going to send out 100 of these pre-written emails. We're going to get 12 reviews and 15 unsubscribes. These are sample numbers. Well, on day 3, another email is going to automatically go out. It's going to go out to that original 100 minus anybody that took action. So 73 emails are going to go out. We're going to get 5 more reviews, 15 more people unsubscribe. Day 7, another one automatically goes out just to the remaining people. We get 3 reviews, 14 more. Day 10, we're going to take one last crack at it. If you hadn't written a review by now, you're probably not going to. We'd pick up 1 more review. So what's the result from that? Well, 100 emails just generated 21 online reviews. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. What's that worth? Well, just a few minutes ago, we agreed that that's what it was worth. Make sense? Yeah. Cool. So for reviews and ratings, it's a ranking indicator for local search engine optimization. It's not a question of can we afford to do this. It's a question of can we afford to not do it. You can't. Consumers trust the online ratings and reviews, and because they trust them, make it a good impression. Make sure that you can reach out to that person in the coffee shop and maybe switch their view. Use a strategy to gain positive reviews. Simply asking customers for feedback isn't enough. I don't care if everybody in your business asks customers, it's not enough. They will forget. And your strategy should have at least 2 goals. Your first goal is to drive positive reviews. Your second goal is to decrease negative reviews. Make sense? Okay. I know some of you are furiously writing down notes. That's kind of a joke. Most people don't take notes. Most people just take pictures. But what I've done is I've broken out these slides into some more detail, and I've put them in a place where you can go download them if you want. And also there you can opt in where you can go get a report, basically, of where your business currently is as far as online reputation, and maybe some ideas on what you can do to fix it. I'm going to move because a lot of people are trying to take a picture of that. And also, I've got a couple of, all of a sudden there's a lot of people taking pictures. I'm going to pass around a couple of these little surveys. You don't have to fill this out, but these surveys are basically a question about your business. And if you fill one of these out and leave it with me, again, you don't have to. If you leave it with me, I'll do the same thing. I'll send you a free report. It's basically where your business currently is and some ideas on how to improve it. And so while those go around, I have time for a couple of questions, maybe 3 or 4 questions. I want to make sure that I'm respectful of y'all's time to, I know you all have to get out of here and go to work too. So I'll be respectful of your time, but I have time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. Who's got the first question? Yes, ma'am. I went to school at Georgia College in Milledgeville. So my degree is in marketing, and I went to school back when the words social media were literally never mentioned in my marketing classes. Not once. Anybody else? Oh yeah, there was a stack of pens going around too. Has anybody done anything? Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, once somebody starts working with your company, sometimes the SEO results improvement takes a while. What's typically the time frame you talk about?
That's a great question. So, when we say SEO results, there are two different sides of it. There's the local SEO, and then there's the organic SEO. And it 100% depends on what the competitiveness is of the terms and locations you're trying to rank for. If you're a bankruptcy attorney in downtown Atlanta, it's going to take a minute. I've done some work with Premier Platforms, and we dominated many of the local search terms that they were looking for in less than 3 weeks. Several of them we got to the first page in 4 days. So organic is kind of up to Google. The local piece of it, a lot of times you have a lot of control over that. We're going to configure it one way, set your site up for success, and then the ratings and reviews. If you've already got 500 emails that you can use for your customers, you have a lot of control over how long it takes. The more ratings and rankings you get, the quicker you will ascend.